Greetings to our Trade Ally partners and welcome to the Focus on Energy 2020 Updates webinar. Today we'll be covering some of the things that are changing for 2020. Overall, these changes are pretty minor for most of you and for your customers. But we'll start out by talking very briefly just about customer satisfaction overall and how we're doing there. Then we'll get into some of the things that informed our approach for 2020 planning. Then we'll get into changes affecting both residential and business customers, followed by training initiative updates, and finally then we'll just talk about some events we've got coming up next year, as well as ways to stay in touch with us here at Focus on Energy. So kicking things off on a high note, talking about customer satisfaction, we have kind of set a baseline here at Focus on Energy that the overall satisfaction of customers will be at least an 8.9 out of 10, which is a pretty high bar to start with. And I'm happy to report that as of today, December 13th at least, we are at a 9.2, almost 9.3 for the year of 2019. So we're doing really great. That's a very, like I said, a very high bar. And this is a testament really to all of you trade allies and the great work you're doing out there. We have very satisfied customers with Focus on Energy, so we're really happy about that. Of course, customer satisfaction will continue to be an important driver of the things we do here. We always have a lot to take into consideration when we make changes to the program. Customer demand is really high right now, but we want to be sure that we're providing equitable participation opportunities for customers from all of our utility partners. And we partner with over 100 utilities across the state, so having offerings that work for all of them is very important to us. As I mentioned, most of the changes that you and your customers will experience in 2020 are pretty minor in terms of incentives and offerings. The biggest change really is that we're moving to consolidate and simplify our delivery of these offerings. So in the past, we've had a lot of different programs, which at times could cause some confusion about which program a customer would fall into. And we really wanted to simplify this for you, our trade allies, and for our customers. So this is what our consolidated offerings look like. So really on the residential side of things is the direct customer solutions and the trade ally solutions, also the new construction solutions, but new construction kind of spans residential and business customers, and that's kind of the same is true for midstream, that both residential and business customers will be able to participate. And then on the business side, we have pared it down to just business and industry solutions and the school and government solutions. But before we get sort of into the weeds on those new solutions, I did want to give you a bit of insight into Focus on Energy's budgets and what this looks like year over year. Focus on Energy's budget is determined largely by utility revenues, right? So it's ratepayers that pay into their utilities, and the utilities then pay a portion of their revenues to Focus on Energy. And it's based on a 3-year rolling average. So in those couple of winters where we had a polar vortex and utility revenues were higher, the Focus on Energy budgets reflected that. And you can see that here we haven't had a polar vortex in a while, and so in 2020 the budget is down a bit from what we've had over the past several years. In order to accommodate that smaller pool of money, we needed to tighten up our budgets. So that was also part of the need to do some of this reorganization, is having administrative efficiencies. So we're lowering our non-incentive budgets. So this is our administrative costs and things like processing incentives and things like that. We're really streamlining a lot of this stuff as much as we can. So we're cutting that by 20% in 2020 compared to 2019. And then the incentive budget is being reduced by about 9%. So you'll probably notice that some measures have a smaller incentive next year. It's not a lot of them, but there are some reductions that is necessitated by this. We've also reduced our energy savings goals, and that's in MMBTUs that you can see up there. It hasn't fallen at the same pace that our budget has, so we need to make up for that by being more efficient with the dollars that we do have available. So that gave you a pretty good peek into what's going on here as we move into 2020. And now I want to get into a few more of the specifics. Though I'm not going to be able to list every single change, I'll note that our website will be updated in the next few weeks here with much of the new content. Incentive catalogs for business customers will also be available before the end of the year, at least in a digital format. We're also preparing an overview document that will list every measure that has changed in those catalogs, so you don't have to work too hard to figure out what's different there. So starting here with our residential solutions, the direct to customer solutions are things like our appliance recycling program, or packs where they can go online and just order a pack of light bulbs and aerators and things. Our online marketplace and our retail lighting, stuff like that, where customers can do this on their own. It's really simple. So that's direct to customer solutions. I'm not going to cover a whole lot more than that here today because it doesn't really touch Trade Allies. Trade Ally Solutions, of course, then I will be giving a lot more details on. But these are things that residential customers would call a contractor for. So if you're talking about replacing a furnace or doing some insulation, these are our Trade Ally Solutions. The midstream solutions is something that kind of spans between residential and business customers. It's a pretty small part of what we do. I'm going to save that until the end, but it is something that residential customers will be able to take advantage of, but I'm going to save that until after we talk about business solutions. So the Trade Ally Solutions, like I said, things like your heating and cooling equipment, building shell improvements, renewables like solar PV, these are all Trade Ally Solutions, and so these are something we're offered through there. Should be very familiar to many of you. This year, we're also going to be adding in-unit multifamily customers, so they'll be also eligible. So if they're in a building with more than 4 units, they will be eligible for many of these offerings. If you're working on a common area equipment, say like common area lighting in one of those buildings, that would still fall as part of the business and industry solutions. But if it's in a unit, then it should qualify for what's like whole home performance, traditionally that kind of stuff. So that's a nice addition. I think that'll simplify things a lot. We still have the tier 2 or the income qualified portion of those programs. Those are staying relatively unchanged. And then we're looking to also kind of simplify that income eligibility process. And so maybe look for that a little later in the year. So for building shell improvements, this is pretty much unchanged from the whole home offerings that you've maybe known that exist right now. This was changed last year in May to be a more prescriptive program, so we're not making any changes right now to that. It should be really very much the same as everything that you are used to right now, aside from what I mentioned earlier, which is that we're adding multifamily to be eligible. So if it's in their unit, you can do some of the whole home stuff in a multifamily setting as well. On the heating and cooling side of things, again, very much the same as the program that you've known for the past several years. The big change, I think, of course, is with the federal ECM baseline shift. So that has caused us to have to change the way we incentivize furnaces a little bit. So we're doing a tiered approach. You can see that table here. So really giving more money, trying to incentivize that highest level of efficiency in the furnaces. Also removing propane furnaces because we really don't have any energy savings that we can claim for those anymore. So those won't be eligible next year. Furnace and AC combos got an updated incentive there, as well as smart thermostats. And there's no more requirement for it being a multi-stage furnace. Any single stage or any stage of furnace will meet the specific AFUE requirements, will be eligible for incentives. And here you can see the whole list of offerings for that heating and cooling equipment. This is the updated table. This will be posted to the website very soon. I'm not going to tick through all of these, but if it's something you really want to check into, you can just pause right here. But this, like I said, this should be up on the website very soon. So renewables is where we've got maybe a more substantial change. Many of you know, if you're involved in this, you've probably already seen some emails from me that we're moving all of our solar PV measures to be prescriptive measures. Now this is beyond just residential. This is also for business, but it'll all run through this Trade Ally solution of renewables. So all PV, every solar PV project will be eligible for a prescriptive incentive that's based on the size of the system. We're shifting a lot of money from the Renewable Energy Competitive Incentive Program, that's RECIP, in order to move that over to here, to the renewables program. And this is what the incentive looks like for residential customers. Like I said, it's based on the capacity of the system. That's the DC capacity, so the panel rating really of the system. Maximum of $1,500. That's down from $2,000 last year. And then for business customers, this is a sort of a progressive incentive structure. So for every project, regardless of the size, they'll receive $300 per kW for the first 5 kW, and then $200 per kW for the next 5, and so on, as you can see in this table here. So for example, a 6 kW system would be eligible for an incentive of $1,700. That's $1,500 for the first 5 kW, and then $200 for the 6th. So this goes all the way up to $60,000 for a very large system, and that is the cap. It's capped at 500 kW. That's a very large PV system. $60,000 is as high as we can go on that. A reservation system will be put in place for all of these renewables projects. So residential projects will have 3 months to complete from the time they put in a reservation, and business projects will have 6 months. Reservation forms will be available shortly after the first of the year. We also have a rural component to the renewables program. So for rural residential customers, and there is there's a zip code list. If you're not familiar with this, there's a zip code list that tells you who is officially rural. If they are in one of those zip codes, we will give them a bonus of up to $500. So it's really an incentive match up to $500, so they can get up to $2,000. And then farms and agricultural producers will be eligible for an incentive match up to $10,000. So they can do quite a bit more, basically doubles their incentives up to that 10, so they could get up to $20,000 with that match. So I'm also going to mention about the RECIP program, the Renewable Energy Competitive Incentive Program, though it's actually kind of on the business side, but it just seems to fit here better. So like I said, we removed the solar PV from this program. We're also taking out ground source heat pumps. So those will be available as a custom measure for business customers, but we're still going to put out requests for proposals 3 times a year. The eligible technologies are biogas, biomass, solar thermal, and wind. And we're also still doing the biogas feasibility studies, so that's up to $15,000 for biogas feasibility study through RECIP as well. And finally, we've got the new construction solutions. So on this, like I said earlier, this spans both residential and business customers. The new construction solutions, it's kind of one path, but on the new homes side of things, it's very much the same new homes program as has been in Focus on Energy since, almost before there was Focus on Energy. There was a new homes program that has been very successful, and we're kind of sticking with that. It's a very similar setup. The same incentives will continue on into next year. If there's a new implementation team that oversees this offering, and so but a lot of the same folks that you already know are going to be there to help you. So there's also a new kind of workflow. It's called Compass that I think will help just in the submittal process and everything. But again, it's still REM rate. It's still the same incentives you're accustomed to. So not a lot of change there. So moving into the business side of things, these are our consolidated offerings or solutions on the business side. Business and industry solutions, very similar to many of the things you've known in the past, just kind of a different packaging on it. Schools and government, so for those specific customers, that type of customer, they do share many of the same incentives and offerings as the business and industry, but it is a little bit different. And then, like I just talked about, the new construction solution, and that incorporates some of what was design assistance and also some prescriptive and some different prescriptive offerings and some different things there. So for the business and industry solutions, this is very much like what you knew in the past, where we had a large energy users program and a small business program and an ag program. This all kind of combines a lot of that. We still have our great subject matter experts and your energy advisors. The vast majority of that is staying the same. If it is changing, you will get notified, but most of you will not. The vast majority, like I said, not going to see a change. It's just a more or less a market-facing kind of better way to organize this and consolidate these programs to make it easier to participate. So we've got prescriptive parts of this, and like I mentioned, the catalogs coming up before the end of the year. Still got custom incentives, retro commissioning, and then the RECIP program that I talked about. Small business still has their online assessments and packs. Considering an ambassador initiative, kind of like what we have, similar to what we have on the residential side. Still have the strategic energy management portion of the program for large industrial, and the rural industrial continuing on with that staffing incentive, which is very popular. The schools and government solutions, again, this year has for those kinds of customers, we have prescriptive and we have custom incentives and retro commissioning. RECIP is available to them if they had one of those projects. I believe we're also adding boiler tune-ups this year. And again, we've got those great subject matter experts ready to work with those customers and with you if you've got one of those customers that you're working with. And then the new construction solutions, so on the business side, there's going to be a new construction solutions portal. So this is really kind of the easiest way for a customer to let us know what they're working on and where they are in their project, and so we can best help them in the way that we best can. So if that's design assistance, hopefully we'll get to them early. If we can do something with the entire building, it doesn't have to be necessarily an entirely new building. It could be just a large addition on some buildings that would qualify as well. And then we also have prescriptive measures included in here as well. So in terms of prescriptive incentives on the business side, like I said, there are not any major changes here. This year there will not be a commercial kitchen equipment catalog. That's all going midstream. There are some incentive changes. That's mostly LEDs and VFDs, but really it's not very major. And like I also said, we'll be sending out an overview of what changed measures there are very soon here, I think next week. So those incentive catalogs are just about ready. Well, they're being reviewed, and before the end of the year, the digital copies will be ready to go. So some of the other changes that will be coming out next year. Some of those things won't happen on January 1st. Some other things will be rolled out later in the year. So more of those details will be available as we get closer to that time of year. But what I do want to mention here is the incentive caps updates. So the customer cap is set at $400,000. This was actually done back in August of 2019, so that's not really that new. But the project cap, the $300,000 per project cap, that will be going into effect on January 1st. We do have some ag-specific updates. So for those of you that work with farms and agricultural customers, these will be of interest to you. Again, it's nothing really big. There are a couple things on top here. The multiple equipment bonus is being discontinued. Electric water heater incentives are being discontinued. And then circulation and ventilation fans. This is kind of a modified incentive structure from what we've done in the past. But you can get into that if you in the catalogs. And then we've got some new offerings for 2020, which you can see here. I'm not going to read through them all. But that will be available on the website and on the catalogs very soon. So the midstream solutions, as I said, I'm saving that for last. This is relatively new territory for Focus on Energy. So if you're not familiar with the terminology in a midstream program, the incentive comes through the distributor. So when you purchase, say, a ductless mini split from a distributor, for example, they'll provide you the incentive at the time of sale, and so you can pass that on to your customers. So this is only on a limited number of measures right now, though we may add more in the future, but this is, like I said, a pretty small part of what we do in total. So on the res side, that is ductless mini splits and heat pump water heaters, and then for business customers, commercial kitchen equipment and circulation pumps. Commercial kitchen equipment we've run a pilot on in the past, and that went really well, so we're continuing down that path. So that does it for our programs and solutions updates, and that brings us to training. So we are doing some new things in 2020, but also sticking with some of the popular offerings from the past. You can see our training calendar on the website, so if you go to focusonenergy.com/training, you can download the calendar, and that gets updated as we add things. But there's a 2020 calendar out there right now. You can see some of these things on there. Advanced compressed air systems. This was highly sought after, so I'm glad to be bringing that. Advanced air sealing. This is a continuation of the Keith Williams course. If you've taken that in the past, if you're into that kind of stuff, this should be a very good course as well. Very excited to announce that we're partnering with MREA, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, to do some renewables trainings this year. The first one, I think, coming in February, like a 4-day class, possibility to get a certification out of that. So that's really cool. Full scholarship for the building operator certification, and we'll be doing that twice in 2020. And then some Design Lights Advanced Network Lighting Controls course will be offered 3 sessions in March of next year. So very exciting stuff. I also wanted to give a plug for our Trade Ally breakfast events. Maybe you've been to these in the past. This year there will be a hot breakfast, and it will be we're added a location this year and changed it around a little bit, but a lot of those locations will be familiar to you. So hopefully you can join us there. You can hear us talk about some of these updates. You can talk with some Focus on Energy advisors and subject matter experts and things. So we hope to see you there. We'll be sending out invites for this next week. So the week of the 16th, you should see an invite for that. So mark your calendars right now. And lastly, I just wanted to give a plug for our Energy Advisor map. If you're not sure who to talk to, if you have questions, you can always turn to this Energy Advisor map on our website and find somebody to talk to that knows what they're talking about. This is going to get updated soon after the new year to reflect some of our new paths, but pretty much the majority of the energy advisors that you all work with are going to stay the same. And like I said, if that is changing at all, we will definitely alert you, and we're trying to do a kind of a handoff if one energy advisor is changing to another, that both of those individuals would contact you and kind of do that handoff. So, but do check out this map if you're looking to get some specific questions answered. And that about does it. But if you have more questions, you can always reach out to us at tradeally@focusonenergy.com. If you've got general questions or you don't even know where to start, that's a good place to start, and we will try and route you to the right person that knows the most about that subject that you're asking about. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for all of your hard work. We really do appreciate it, and we hope to see you very soon. Thank you.